Have you ever headed up into the mountains, intent on a peaceful evening camping, only to find yourself in an unfortunate situation and then make that situation worse by being stubborn and lazy? Well, on this episode of Primal Outdoors, that's exactly the situation I found myself in. All right, folks, well, I tried to turn around. I tried to do the right thing. I did not want to be buried in the snow. I did not want to spend my time digging the van out. But as you can see, we didn't succeed. So I was hoping to get turned around. I was trying to back up to a road that's just behind me about, 30 or so yards, 40 yards from me now, and I thought maybe I could back up into it, but the van just kept getting pushed more and more because we're on it's very slushy, kind of icy, wet snow, and there's just a slight off camera-ness to this road, and it's very slight, but it was enough to where it just kept pushing the van over more and more and more to the one side. So anyways, didn't want to spend my day doing this, but it looks like we're going to spend our day doing this. All right, so you can see also how far I made it, and then you can see that basically it was just building a wall right here, and then the van was having to push that along with being on this slushy snow. So the first thing I'm going to do is get around to all the tires and dig out in front and behind the tires, because the van kind of shoved itself off to the side. There's no good rut for it in front or behind, so that's making it even more challenging. And again, because this snow is just so wet and heavy, it's just really hard for it to try to push through. I originally intended to get up here and make a video for my van camping channel. There was a winter storm alert in effect, so I was hoping I'd find a nice place along a river or a creek where I could camp for the evening. You saw from the intro clips that we did have some heavy falling snow, but it was sporadic, and as you can see from this clip, we also had a lot of sun breaks. These sun breaks lasted most of the day, and as you'll see moving forward, this was actually a problem. One thing I do have going for me is this forest road is paved, at least at this section. So I am able to dig straight down to the pavement. But the snow is a lot deeper. I'm not necessarily sure the tires are going to be able to get good traction on the pavement because of all the snow underneath the van, holding this van upward. So this side's actually the worst of it because the van slid over into the snowbank. So I'm going to have to do a lot of digging to get the van clear on this one side. Now, usually whenever I get the van stuck or any of my vehicles stuck in snow, somebody brings up that you need a good set of winter chains. And you know that I don't care for them. I don't think they really work in the backcountry like this when you're dealing with big, heavy wet snow. They'd be a pain in the butt to get on right now with the van already bogged. Plus, if I had already put them on with just the intention of pushing my way through this, they can be very damaging to the forest roads, tearing them up, and I don't want to do that either. So there's just a lot of reasons why I don't think winter chains are great. And then, you know, the last one is just like I talked before. My biggest challenge right now is because the van is on so much wet, heavy snow, it's actually being held up like it's on jacks. So the chains are just going to dig out just like the tires, and they're not going to reach anything to grab traction on anyways. My real challenge is going to be getting the snow underneath it, or the van off of the snow that's underneath it. So again, I think the tools I have, a shovel, recovery boards, and a winch, are really all I need.
But this is where things started going wrong. I had all the tools I needed, but I was being too lazy to use everything I had at my disposal. I'm obviously using my shovel, but I should have removed some air from my tires. Removing air from the tires would give my tires more surface area on the snow. This not only gives you more traction, but it also helps the vehicle float better on top of the snow versus sinking and then have the snow build up underneath it. I would also like to point out that I do think chains are very useful on hard packed snow and ice, but when the snow is deep and heavy like this snow, I do not believe they are as useful as many people believe. If the snow was fresher and light and fluffy, I don't believe the van would need the chains, but even at that point, the snow could be very deep and you would be able to push the snow out of the way very easily. But again, this snow has started to melt. It's become icy. It's got a lot of water content. It's very heavy, and therefore it's going to be very hard for the van to be able to push it once it starts getting really built up in front and underneath the van.
All right, so technically the van is now unstuck, but it's really not a true statement because it's still facing the wrong direction, and I'm still confident that I'm not going to be able to go any further that direction because it's just going to get stuck again. And like I said, for whatever reason, there's some ruts in here from other vehicles, but it just doesn't want to stay in those ruts. It wants to keep pushing itself off to the side. So I need to really get turned around and just get out of here, but that's going to be the challenge, is turning around, because I know I'm not going to be able to easily get it to just Austin Powers its way around with these ruts and get turned around. So we may be technically unstuck, but we're still stuck.
But on the bright side,
Look what a gorgeous day it is right now. Got the sun out, it's still snowing. It's pretty beautiful. Wish I was sitting on a creek and not stuck though.
these ruts were most likely made back when the snow was fresh. But now the ruts have frozen and the sunshine is melting the snow. So we have water on top of solid ice, making the situation even slicker. I'd be much better off if the weather would stay cloudy and below freezing. What I'm trying to do now is dig my own rut for the front tires to follow. Since I feel confident that the tire will not climb over the frozen rut, it will just spin. I also feel that now that I have the van out of the snowbank, tire chains would be useful to get myself out. But I'm also confident that if I had just taken the air pressure in my tires down to 25 psi instead of the 55 psi I had in them, I would have recovered myself in far less time than it would have taken me to get chains on the van. One other thing I should point out is I do have a selectable locker up front, which I do have engaged at the moment. In the back, I have a limited slip. It's a standard limited slip that came in Ford trucks. I think the clutches might be worn out. It doesn't always seem to engage. I eventually would like to just swap it out to a selectable locker in the future.
Now I have to say too, this is usually also about the time that somebody leaves a super intelligent comment saying, I need to get real tires for the van. I don't know, these tires seem pretty real to me. I think, all joking aside, what they're saying is, I need mud terrains, not all terrains. And though I do believe mud terrains would definitely be handy in situations like this, I drive this van way too much on the road to be able to afford mud terrains. This thing's 9,500 pounds when it's fully loaded out. I can guarantee you I would wear through a set of mud terrains every 6 months or less. And at the cost of mud terrains, I don't have that in my wallet. So if you would like me to have mud terrains on here and would like to sponsor my tires, I'd absolutely do it. I'll put mud terrains on here if you'll buy me new tires every 6 months. But until then, I'll stick with all terrains, because all terrains actually do better than mud terrains on packed snow and ice, like when you're going over the pass. They actually hold on. You can actually see here how they are holding on to the snow. That gives you more surface area, and that's what allows all terrains to get the snow peak label, because they'll work better on hard packed snow and ice. And since you're driving at speed when you're going over a pass, I think I'll take that over the mud terrains, which are designed to fling the snow and then you get less traction. So anyways, little tire lesson. But yeah, I did the sniff and taste test. These tires are pretty real. Anybody wondering, these are the Maxi Razors, and as far as all terrains go, they have been my favorite I've put on the van so far. Now, admittedly, the one thing that would be super helpful to me right now is if I aired my tires down. But I'm too lazy to wait for them to have to air back up to road pressure once I get out of here. Which is ironic that I'm too lazy to stand around and do nothing while my tires air up, but I'm not too lazy to sit there and dig all day. I don't know. Whatever, it's a beautiful day. Alright, well, we're obviously having still some problems. The problem is even though it's just ever so slightly, this road is just kind of off to this one side, which the van just keeps wanting to slide. That way it keeps putting me in fresh snow that hasn't been driven through. I can't seem to get it to stay on the in the other ruts. All the more reason why I guess I'm just going to have to air my tires down. But the last push, I think I made some progress. We're going to give it a couple more tries before we submit to the pressure of relieving pressure from the tires. I could also probably use my recovery boards too. Just haven't wanted to go up and get them. I just feel like we're so close.
I finally submitted to at least try my recovery boards. I figured if I could just get the van up in the old rut, then I would be able to drive right out without any issues. But that didn't work either.
Alright guys, well, I'm finally submitting to the peer pressure. I'm actually airing my tires down now. We were getting somewhere, but it just keeps throwing me. It just keeps throwing me up into this bank. I've got to get the van kind of more up here on this hill, but to be honest, I just don't know if it's going to happen tonight. I really think I'm going to have to wait for the snow to get a lot more frozen, and then I just think I can get out. But as you can see, it is snowing a lot on me now, and even though it says it's only supposed to be an inch, that's in Sisters, not here in the mountains. All right, guys, well, we still have a ways to go, but we've got off this little off-camber hill, which was my biggest problem. Now, admittedly, I shouldn't have been so freaking stubborn. I should have just aired those tires down right out of the gate and just called it a day, and I probably would have been out of here a long time ago. But sometimes you turn things kind of into a game, and it came to a point of like trying to do it with just the shovel. But yeah, I don't think I would ever have happened. Now, one other factor that I think did help me out a lot is it's getting a lot colder. We've got some new snow coming down, and I can just tell the snow that I'm walking on is not as slushy and wet as it was earlier. It's starting to freeze up a little bit, and then it's getting this new layer of fresh powdery snow on top, which fresh powdery snow is great for traction. Slushy snow, not so much. So anyways, we've got the van to that point. I still probably have 2 miles of this to drive through, but it's fairly level and not off camber. And I didn't have a problem until I got into that section. So I'm just gonna assume that everything is gonna go fine for the rest of the evening, and I'm gonna find myself somewhere with a glass of whiskey tonight. And I'm not gonna video. I was gonna make a van camping video out of this, and it was supposed to be just me out by some nice little river enjoying the wonderful snow, which it is wonderful right now. But now I'm tired, and I don't feel like filming. I feel like just sitting in my van, glass of whiskey, and maybe dinner. That's if I can get the rest of the way out of here.
I actually had no more issues the rest of the way out. The van traveled no problem with the tires aired down. Now, there's no doubt that I made lots of mistakes in this recovery. The first mistake was I should have aired those tires down as soon as I got onto snow. But I've always been reluctant to air my tires down because it takes so long to air them back up. These tires typically I run at 50 psi when I'm driving on and off road. If I'm driving highway, I drive them at 60, and I typically like to air them down to around 25 for snow. To go from 25 back up to 55 takes about 20 minutes for me to air all the tires up. I'm currently working on some upgrades that will hopefully decrease that time in half, and then I think I'd be a lot less reluctant to air my tires down, especially when it comes to snow. Anyways, guys, I hope you did find something useful out of this video, and if you did, please do give it a like. If you have any comments and questions, you can leave those down below, and we'll catch you guys again outside.